The dream of Google Stadia becoming a powerhouse new game maker is dead. BioWare's been working hard to make us happy with the new Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And I've been playing some fun stuff and I've got some thoughts. All that and the latest in everything cool today in the Rundown. Welcome to the show, everybody. This one is dedicated to Mike Williams, who is very happy that MLB The Show 21 is coming to his Xbox. All right, we've got some fun things to talk about today and some not so fun things to talk about. Let's get into it with Stadia. Yesterday, we learned that Google has closed Stadia's internal game development division and has shifted focus for the company to be a partner to third-party publishers. The $10 a month Stadia Pro subscriptions are still available to consumers, as is the free tier access to their service, but it's unlikely we'll be seeing much, if any, exclusive new content coming directly from Stadia in the future. In a letter addressed to the industry and its members, Stadia's general manager Phil Harrison stated that with the recent successful launch of Cyberpunk 2077 on Stadia, gameplay on all types of devices, including iOS, growing our slate of YouTube integrations, and our global expansions, it's clear that Stadia's technology has been proven and works at scale. But he also stresses that creating best-in-class games from the ground up takes many years and significant investment, and the cost is going up exponentially. So the decision has been made to shutter internal development, and the head of Stadia's Games and Entertainment, my friend and former colleague here at EP, Jade Raymond, is no longer with Google. And presumably many people across Stadia are going to be losing their jobs if they haven't already, and they're going to have to think about uprooting and possibly moving with their families somewhere else, although a lot of people can work from home now in the game industry. But this news just stinks. I don't know how Google could not have factored in the cost of making exclusive content into the whole business plan around Stadia. When you think of Google and the limitless amounts of cash that they have as their resource, you think if anybody's going to be able to make this work, it's going to be a company like Google. And so now this does not inspire a great deal of confidence in consumers. I'm seeing it all over YouTube and all over the internet. People are really thinking that these are the tiered steps for either Google to shut down Stadia completely, which I don't think they will do, but maybe this is something that they spin off, or the technology that they license out to specific game studios. And maybe that's going to be a better business for Google in the long run, but I think it's a crappy deal for the users that have really been with the idea right from the beginning, and I count myself as one of them, partially because of the people involved with Google Stadia. I'm friends with Phil Harrison. I've known him for years, since he was at Sony, and of course, Jade Raymond worked with me on Electric Playground, and I think she's amazing. I thought, okay, well, all of these really cool ingredients, there's lots of other folks that I know over at Google as well, lots of veteran game developers, and lots of people that sort of believe in the philosophy of getting games to anybody based on whatever screen they might have in front of them. There was a lot of promise there, and I think the other part of that promise to consumers, especially the subscribers, is that we're going to back it up with some real investment into some creative thinking and some creative ideas. I believe in the concept, and I have been a subscriber, but this was the news that kind of broke the camel's back, and I canceled my Stadia Pro subscription yesterday. I feel like if Google, with its vast amount of resources, is not going to follow through, at least to let us see 2 or 3 releases of all of these things that Google was building on the back end. At least try, at least finish a few of these things and let us know why you're making this decision. Spend the hundreds of millions of dollars and get a couple of games out there, and even if they crash and burn, all of that experience and know-how and knowledge will have at least entrenched Google at that point into what it takes to make really good things, as well as be a service provider to partners out there. It might make a much better business decision for them to circle their wagons and just be a partner to all kinds of different companies out there. But in terms of selling the message of this egalitarian kind of technology that allows people to play state-of-the-art experiences on way less than state-of-the-art tech, I think that is really suffering now. I think a lot of people are going to be incredibly skeptical. This is just another brand on a long road of different companies that have tried to get into the space, and there's been a lot of cancellations, a lot of closures, and unfortunately a lot of layoffs and letting go of great people like Jade. Now I think everybody's on kind of death watch with Stadia, unless some kind of huge mega deal like EA or UB or Activision, or maybe even the hardware partners. Maybe Nintendo's looking at Stadia Tech right now as a solution for them to be able to offer up vast chunks of their catalog. Who knows? That may be a better business for Google, but as far as players and fans of this medium, this was not great news at all. Now, I do have some great news regarding video games today, and that is BioWare revisiting their classics. The Mass Effect Legendary Edition comes out on May 14th, and it's going to come with enhanced visuals, up-res textures, and visual effects improvements. There's going to be depth of field included with some of the storytelling elements in there to make things look much more cinematic. Everything's being up-res to 4K Ultra HD, and it's going to have HDRs. These things are going to look beautiful. Look at all these lens flares everywhere. This trailer actually gave me chills when I checked it out this morning. I can't wait to dive back into this game. It is being made for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One spec consoles. Of course, you can also play it on PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. BioWare decided to stay with Unreal Engine 3 rather than kind of looking at this as a full refresh or a remake. It's a remaster. But what they did is they used AI tech and all kinds of tooling to get the most that they possibly could out of Unreal Engine 3. And so we are going to see, a noticeable improvement and much kind of stronger sense of fidelity, but it's going to feel very similar to the kinds of vibe and the flavor and the look of what we remember of the Mass Effect trilogy. Now, I don't really consider that to be a big problem. I mean, I would love the Legendary Edition to be a remake, but I also feel like, it hasn't been that long since these games came out. Well, it's been about 14 years since the first Okay, so it is longer than I care to think about, but it hasn't sort of entered into that Final Fantasy VII remake territory, and I feel like that is probably part of Mass Effect's future. BioWare's got to right the train and get it back on the tracks, especially after Andromeda and Anthem. They've got to get people kind of believing in the future of Mass Effect again, and I think the great way to do that is to kind of revisit the genius that they created as a company. I love the trilogy. I love those games. They were hypnotic. And Mass Effect 3 is always going to mean a lot to me. That was released just after my daughter was born, and I remember playing that game with her just sleeping on me. I was slouching back and getting lost in that world. These are extraordinary games, and I'm glad that it's been given the love and the care that they deserve. Mac Walters, who's been part of the Mass Effect creative universe for a long time, oversaw the production of the Legendary Edition. Mac Walters actually said it's been an incredible journey revisiting the stories, characters, and iconic moments of the Mass Effect trilogy, enhancing the experience for modern platforms while staying true to the spirit of the original. Remastering a game, let alone 3, is a huge undertaking, as there's over 100 hours of gameplay included, but we wanted to do this for our fans as well as a new generation of gamers looking to jump into the iconic story of Shepard. And that's the other thing, all of the DLC that came with these games is included as well. One thing that isn't in there is the multiplayer in Mass Effect 3. They had to kind of make some decisions on what stays and what goes, but still, tons to get lost in. It's not going to be earth-shaking like Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's not going to kind of change the course of everything, but what it's going to do is make a fresh imprint and make us all kind of snap to attention again about how incredibly ambitious and beautiful and trailblazing the Mass Effect franchise has been. And it's also going to amp up the expectations for where Mass Effect is going to take us in the future. And hopefully, this is the beginning of some bright new days for everybody at BioWare. I know that they've gone through some hell over there, too. Speaking of corporations that kind of have to pivot and deal with all kinds of controversy. Yeah, so May 14th is the date when the Mass Effect Legendary Edition comes out. Circle that on your calendar. You're going to be busy with these titles. And honestly, I'm a little bit jealous if these games are all going to be brand new to you. Enjoy them. All right, some games that I have been enjoying is what I want to talk about next. All right, as you can probably guess, I've been pretty busy making the rundown every day over the last few weeks, but I have been gaming when I haven't been putting the show together, and I've been playing some pretty fun things. I want to talk about Hitman 3 first of all. I think that this is the most accessible Hitman experience I think I've ever played, and I think partially it's due to the fact that I played quite a bit of Hitman 1 and 2, but there's just something about the refinement and the detail and the visual upgrades. Hitman 3 is absolutely stunningly beautiful. It's a little bit stiff, it's not like Uncharted where you're running around inside of your environments and you can sort of grapple on all kinds of stuff, or an Assassin's Creed or something like that. There's a rigidity to the animations and the objective structures of Hitman, but there's also a tremendous amount of freedom. This game does a very good job at kind of giving you a little bit more freeform choice, giving you all kinds of rewards for taking risks and trying out different things. There's an online stat tracking component here as well, and you're unlocking all kinds of abilities. And this is a game where you can complete the core story, which is what I did last last night, and then the game kind of asks you to go back and retry different things. It gives you a whole bunch of different sets of tools and different objectives and different ways to kind of manage stuff. You can also go on custom-built missions, but I was really, really taken aback by how addictive and how slick and how cool this was. So if you haven't played Hitman 3 or any of the recent Hitman games, do yourself a favor and check them out. And yes, the whole time that I was playing Hitman 3, I was thinking, where are they going to go with James Bond? I'm very excited that IO Interactive is making a James Bond game. A game I've been playing on the PS5, but I've also taken a look at it on the PC and on iOS platforms because it was actually released as part of the Apple Arcade collection, which blows my mind. It's The Pathless, developed by Giant Squid, and this is a gorgeous game. Very minimalist. A lot of the texture detail and stuff has been stripped away, and it has a kind of a Journey type of aesthetic. It's kind of like Journey meets a Fumito Ueda game, like Shadow of the Colossus or an Eco type experience. There's lots of puzzle solving and ruined temples and mystical beings and creatures. There is an element of combat in here, but really it's about exploration and discovery and sort of piecing the story together, and it's just so freaking beautiful. I'm still early days with the game, and it gave me a good impression when I first checked it out on the PC, but there's just something about sitting back in my gaming chair and getting lost in this one on the PS5. A game that I and many other players around the world was delighted to see come back again is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World Complete Edition. I've been playing this on the Xbox Series X and also on the Nintendo Switch, and it's identical. It's like I can't really tell the difference. The HDR doesn't pop up or anything like that when I play it on my Series X. It's a hard game. That's something that I kind of had put out of my mind. Like, it takes a long time to earn the combos and the attack capabilities to take on the hordes of enemies that come your way, and some of them are like knocking you out with red cups and bars and stuff, you know, and you'll see kegs flying around the screen, and it's like, oh my god, don't let any of the physics in this thing hit me. The music is great and the combat is great, but it's really fun when you play it with other people. That's the core of this game. It's just so cool. But just that core group that made this game, I wish Ubi had kind of kept them together and let them go off on making more kind of 2D experiences with this kind of pixel art passion, you know, all of these little details. It's an homage to a bygone era, but it's just done so well. And it's a 10-year-old game already, but it feels completely contemporary. It feels necessary to play, you know? It's great. Another retro-type game that feels unbelievably current and valuable and super fun to play is Cyber Shadow. I've been talking about this quite a bit because I just had the Yacht Club Games folks on Vic's Basement. This was made by one guy, and it's incredibly difficult. It's like a fusion between Ninja Gaiden, a little Shinobi, maybe a little bit of Shovel Knight kind of in there, like a lot of 8-bit sort of platformer, action-adventure-y, Metroidvania type experiences. This is just really slick and challenging, and you feel so good by just getting from one screen to the next. But the music and the immersion into this pixel art cyber world that's crafted is just so fun. And the other game that I want to talk about is actually available starting today on PlayStation Plus, and that's Control, the Ultimate Edition. And holy crap, does this game look amazing on PlayStation 5. You can choose between a fidelity mode or performance mode. Performance kicks everything up to 60 frames. Fidelity, you have a little bit more detail in the lighting and the ray tracing and the colors and stuff like that. But it is a game really meant to be played in 60 frames per second. There is this Remedy vibe of fusing some video componentry into the video game art, messing with your mind that way, and it plays all the way through the experience. So there's something to be said about playing this at a more photorealistic 60 frames per second. It just sort of fits that X-Files meets the paranormal kind of crazy vibe of this game. The muted color palette and the incredible abilities and animations that this game provides. Wow. Again, I'm incredibly envious of anybody that is playing Control for the first time. They've got a PS5, they missed it somehow on last gen, and this is the first way that they're going to play it. They're going to be impressed. This is an amazing game. All right, I've got a couple of other quick things to tell you about. First up is the trailer for a new game called Revita, which again is made by one person. What is up with all of these singular talents out there that can make games on their own? Ben Starr is the name of the person that's making this game, and it's a dual-stick roguelike platform action-adventure game. Reminds me a little bit of Dead Cells, maybe fused with a little Enter the Gungeon. Lots of chaotic action, lots of enemies to take out, and of course lots of crafting and building up that you can do and sort of earning your way. I like the subway train that pops in and then you basically start your adventure over again. You're going to try to master those runs. Looks addictive. Looks like it could be quite compulsive. It is a crowded space, though. The pixelated roguelike space has got a lot of contenders out there. So hopefully this all comes together and ends up being a really special game. It's called Revita. And the other bit of news that I want to tell you about today is very exciting. If you've been playing sports games for a while, Electronic Arts announced that they are going back into the college football business. And Cam Weber, who's a GM over at EA Sports, said, "We've heard from the millions of passionate fans requesting the return of college football video games. We love the energy, tradition, and pageantry of college football, and I am beyond thrilled to say we are back in development. We have a lot of really exciting work ahead of us and a great team that is eager to bring a new game to players in the next couple of years." So they don't have any footage to show us yet, but I was a huge fan of the college games that EA worked on. They just were very fast and loose and a little bit crazier, and they're partnering with a collegiate licensing company, so they're locking down all the logos and stadiums and uniforms, but we still don't know about player likenesses because, of course, a lot of players that have played college ball that have felt like they should have been compensated for being in these games, that always kind of bubbles up to the surface when these games are so successful. And obviously college football was an incredibly big seller for EA for a long time. It was weird when they took it off the market, but this should be fun. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for our rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. Special shout out to all of the EPN members out there. You guys are fantastic. Thank you. Thank you to all of our subscribers and our new subscribers. We will see you tomorrow, and until then, play forever.